What is all the hype about artificial intelligence in learning these days? How's it used? And what are the future perspectives? We'll talk about that in this video. First, let's talk about what artificial intelligence or AI is in the first place. Now, there are two different general characterizations or types of AI that we should delineate here before we get started. There is narrow AI and general AI. Narrow AI is also known as weak AI, and the simplest explanation for this is really to say that narrow AI can do one thing. It can do one task. It's developed to do one thing. You can think of it in opposition to broad AI or general AI, which is what you see in Terminator. It's what you see in HAL 9000 from 2001: A Space Odyssey. And so that kind of AI can obviously do many things. So general AI or broad AI is general intelligence. This type of AI is almost sentient, like a human being. Human beings can apply their intelligence to a number of different things. Narrow AI is only focused on one thing, and general AI can do everything. So, what are we really looking at today? Today, we are only looking at narrow AI. There is no broad or general AI in existence today. So people ask, when will that happen? Well, best guesses are somewhere maybe 2040, maybe 2050. Some people say even longer than that, considering how complex something like that really is to create. Now, you probably heard about another characterization of artificial intelligence, or a field within AI, which is called machine learning. So what is machine learning? Well, machine learning is really the practice of feeding a lot of data into a computer and then have one or several algorithms work over that data to perform a specific task. So still within this narrow AI realm, machine learning is feeding a lot of data to a computer, having algorithms work on those pieces of data to produce a specific outcome that we would like to see. An example of machine learning is things like face recognition. So if you feed a lot of pictures of faces into a machine and have some algorithms try to figure out what faces look like, then you can make the algorithm detect faces once it's learned. And that's what we mean by machine learning. So where is artificial intelligence really being used in learning today? Well, one area is for sure within personalization of the learning experience by means of what are called recommendation engines. The other area that we see AI being used are in things like chatbots, talkbots like Alexa, and so on. So let's start with recommendation engines. What is a recommendation engine? Well, it's basically what you are seeing on Amazon, on Netflix, Google. All use recommendation engines. Let me give you an example. Have you ever done Netflix and then Netflix has a little section where it says Netflix recommends this or that movie or TV show for you? That is based on an artificial intelligence machine that is called a recommendation engine. Now transfer that over to learning, and you're looking at some of the providers who do learning experience platforms as well as other technologies, micro-learning platforms. Some of those have it. They have the same functionality where the platform will recommend certain training courses, certain content to your learners. In other words, that is a type of personalization of the learning experience. So there are a couple of different ways to do recommendation engines. One of them is by content filtering. Content filtering basically takes the preferences of the users and matches it with the descriptions or keywords related to the elements that you have. So let's say you have some e-learning, some of it is tagged as leadership, some of it is tagged as project management, some of it is tagged as safety, and by looking at what users have set their interests are, it will match the content with the preferences of the users. That's content filtering. The second way that some recommendation engines work is by what is called collaborative filtering. Basically, the system tries to figure out what other people like you have done in the past. So it tries to create some type of persona around who you are, either by looking at your past behavior, or perhaps you have given it data about yourself to the system, and then it looks at similar people and see what they are doing. And by comparing those things, it can recommend things that other people like you have liked. The final way that recommendation engines work is by hybrid systems. Those are becoming more and more popular. It is, for instance, what Netflix uses. Not only does it look at what it thinks you like based on your preferences or past behavior, but it also looks at what people like you have liked in the past. So it uses both content filtering and collaborative filtering to recommend content for you. So how do you decide what AI recommendation engine is really the best for you? A good recommendation engine is not one that has better algorithms, although that does impact it somewhat. But the differentiator here is really the amount of data that the machine has to work with to learn more and more about who you are, thereby personalizing the learning experience. So when you go out and look for someone who does artificial intelligence, try and ask them, where do they get their data and how do they ensure that they get massive amounts of data to optimize the learning, the machine learning happening within their system. I'm a huge fan of these recommendation engines, the learning experience platforms. I think it's long overdue that we spend some serious effort on improving the learner experience. We have thought a lot about how we can improve the learning processes for ourselves as learning professionals, how we can make it easier to manage courses, online, offline content, instructor-led courses, and we developed whole learning management systems for that. But we haven't spent so much time focusing on the learning experience. That's why I'm really excited about recommendation engines that are used in all types of platforms, but most prominently in learning experience platforms. So the other area where AI is being used are things like chatbots and talkbots. Alexa is a good example. Hey Alexa, where do I find information about this or that? That's really learning. Another example are Google. And we also see chatbots, you know, the little things that pop up on your screen and ask you, can I help you today? That has been put into certain learning solutions. I've seen it on intranets where it helps people find what they're looking for. One example is Facebook Deep Text. Facebook has implemented something they call Deep Text, and basically what it is they have a little machine or a deep neural network that basically tries to understand what you write. So using a lot of very complex algorithms and natural language processing, it basically means that what you write on Facebook gets analyzed by this machine. Why do they need that? Well, one reason they need that is to try and figure out what your interests are, to try and filter the content that Facebook shows you in your Facebook feed. Another reason could be to guide you to the right tools. For example, if you write, hey, I am selling my bicycle for $200. If deep text works as it should, then it will basically understand that you're trying to sell a bike for $200. And because Facebook has an application called Marketplace, it can suggest that you put your item, your bicycle, up for sale on Facebook Marketplace. It's not that prevalent in learning applications just yet, but I think it will be. Considering the future of natural language processing, I think there's some really interesting things that can happen. Let me give you some examples. What if you had an app that could listen to any book and summarize it? Maybe instead of reading all of the 7 habits or whatever book you're reading, it could simply do an executive summary of the entire book and turn it into microlearning. Or perhaps it could read it aloud for you. Here's another one. Maybe you find some content in Spanish and you only speak Danish or English. Well, real-time translation is something we're definitely going to see, perhaps sooner rather than later. So what if it could automatically translate the content for you, whether that's by subtitling or perhaps even inserting some type of voice so it translates into any language. Additionally, you could subtitle any video. So let's say you have a video, you make it in English, your company now has to release it in China or in Portugal or in Canada and you need French. Subtitling instantly by understanding what's being said and turning it into subtitles, well, that reduces this whole subtitling process to seconds instead of weeks. Or what about tests and assessments? Why not just have the computer ask you the question in an Alexa type voice and you simply answer? No need to write, no need to click. You simply sit back, enjoy the test, much as if you were talking to someone. Or you could talk into the computer or perhaps even write an essay, and this system would be able to understand what you said and judge it based on its merits. Another thing that I'm considering for natural language processing is, what about content curation? If you have a machine that understands language, that means it can categorize content. It can look at a YouTube video and then it can see what is this video about by listening to it, not just the tags that the uploader gave it, but really understand what this video is about. And if it understands it, then it can curate it into a collection, into a curricula, or into the recommendation engines we talked about earlier and recommend it to you. I think there are lots of possibilities in the future, and I look forward to all of it. So, I hope you enjoyed this video about AI and learning. I know it's brief, I know there's much more to talk about, but please give me your thoughts, comments, and questions below, and I'm sure we'll talk much more about this topic going forward. Thanks for watching.